Where are we?
This is Mark McNeese in New York City, and you're listening to Age to Perfection, brought to you by LGBTSR, where age is embraced and life is celebrated. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. This is Mark, and I've got a return guest on tonight. Right before I say hello to him, though, I just want to mention that tomorrow, April 8th, is the 4-year anniversary of the website that I started, lgbtsr.org, also known as LGBT Senior. It will be 4 years old tomorrow. My friends at Krieger Cole Communications have done a lovely press release that they're going to put out for me and all this other stuff. So anyways, happy anniversary to the website and all the wonderful people who have contributed and continue to contribute, and all of the fabulous podcast guests. So let's get to that. Michael Broder, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So people know you are a poet, many, many, many other things, but you're a poet also. And I met you at last year's Rainbow Book Fair, which is going to sort of be the topic tonight, because that's coming up a week from Saturday. And yes. I had never been there. I went there with Frank, my husband, a couple years ago. We just walked around, and I said, "Oh, this would be a great place to come as a publisher and author." So I did that last year, and that's where I met you. And it looks like I'm going to be at the same table that you were at last year from the seating chart.
Oh yeah. Well, let's see. Oh, okay, cool. I mean, I remember where that was, and you were across the little aisle from me. I was at the table that was being shared by the lesbian feminist journal Sinister Wisdom and A Midsummer Night's Press, which is my press, and I was kind of doing them both a favor by sharing the staffing duties with a couple of other volunteers. And that was the second year that I was at the fair. Well, it was the first year that I was involved in that kind of way. The previous year I just stopped by, and I wouldn't have had a book if I hadn't stopped by, because I visited that self-same Sinister Wisdom, A Midsummer Night's Press table and spoke to Julie Enzer, the editor of Sinister Wisdom, the journal, and she encouraged me to send a manuscript to her friend Lawrence Schimmel, who's the publisher of A Midsummer Night's Press, and they were looking for new authors for the following year's titles and so forth, and I ended up getting a book out of it. Which book I really should mention, or I'd like to mention if I have.
Oh, yeah, I was going to, so you go ahead.
Okay, well, it's actually a finalist for the 2015 Lambda Literary Award for Gay Poetry, along with 4 or 5 other titles. I'm sorry, my computer is making all of these.
Oh, that's okay.
Not just my computer, my phone, my pad. You know, I get alerted when I have a text, when I have an email, when I have a this, when I have a that. But anyway, and I don't suspect I'm going to win. Honestly, I'm not saying that out of modesty. There are some real heavy hitters on the list with me, but it's the kind of nomination that's sort of like impressive enough that you can keep it in your bio forever. You can always say This Life Now was a finalist for the 2015 Lambda Literary Award in Gay Fiction, and even just having that is always nice to have in your bio.
Well, listen, by the way, now I'm wondering if you are in the same position where I'm also a finalist. Did you know that?
Yes, that's right, you are. I didn't know it at first because, of course, I just really looked closely at the poetry list. But then it kind of emerged on Facebook after a while that you were in, is it for anthology, for Outer Voices in Our Lives. Right, yeah.
That I co-edited and published of LGBTQ writers over 50.
Mm-hmm.
But I did the same thing. I didn't even know that I knew that my co-editor had submitted it, but I didn't pay any attention because I just always assume I'm never going to win anything. And then one of the writers actually emailed me and said, "Oh, congratulations." I'm like, "What?" And then I did the same thing. I really sort of looked at the anthologies.
Mm-hmm. Those are the categories.
Yes, and I looked at the mysteries, and then I kicked myself in the ass because I should have submitted my last mystery that came out in August, and I didn't. But anyways, it's a nice feeling. It's a sense of some kind of recognition, which is nice to have.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy for you. So not only are we talking about the Rainbow Book Fair, but we are both Lambda Literary Award finalists.
Yeah, and these things are kind of weirdly connected. I mean, Lambda is a big supporter of the book fair and has a presence there. And as I said, it's sort of the book fair is how I met my publisher. Not how I met my publisher because I knew him, but how I sort of got encouraged to submit a manuscript at the time that I did. So some of the hype that the we is I joined the steering committee of the book fair this year.
Mm-hmm.
Really just a couple months ago. So in February, they did a benefit reading that I don't think any of us knew that it was a benefit for the book fair. They were a little low key on the promotion or the association, but it was a reading, kind of a little bit belated Valentine's Day, I think, because it was called Out of Cupid's Mouth. I'm not really sure if that's a quote from something or just an expression that someone came up with. But it was at BGSQD, the Bureau of General Services Queer Division, which is really the only independent gay bookstore left in New York and is now housed at the lesbian and gay, the LGBT Community Center on 13th Street between 7th and Greenwich.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of invited myself to the Out of Cupid's Mouth reading. I Facebooked one of the organizers and said, wow, I'd be great for this reading. Do you have any more room on the program? Which is a kind of an obnoxious thing to do. And they said no. And then the morning of, they said, oh my goodness, Michael, one of our readers has the flu or something. So do you want to read tonight? So I went to the reading, and it turned out to be this benefit for the Rainbow Book Fair, which I hadn't even realized it was. They'd organized it at the center. Just kind of in chatting with them, Perry Brass, who's one of the co-founders, said, we're kind of looking to expand our group of co-organizers. There's really a lot of work involved. And, Mark, you and I have been talking about aging and so forth, basically since we met. And one of my missions this year was to kind of, to me, it's connected in my mind with getting older, but it's like to kind of reach out and kind of plug into things. Like, I think I've been a bit of a loner for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be okay. It was okay for me for 20 or 30 years. And then at a certain point, for some reason, I don't know, you start to feel more alone, or I don't know, some of your choices begin to come home to roost in certain ways. And I just felt that I needed to plug into more things. My synagogue, other kinds of projects and organizations and so forth. And by my synagogue, I mean CBST, the Lesbian and Gay Synagogue in New York. And so I said, I kind of would be interested in helping you guys out. And that's kind of all it took. And so this year I haven't been doing, I've been I seem to be a little bit of the Facebook, posting things on Facebook person and helping out with organizing some of the poetry related stuff. So the
Mm-hmm.
Rainbow Book Fair has, the exhibits are kind of almost like the main event in a way. I think that's kind of how it started. This is the 7th annual. So I tried counting back earlier, and that would mean it started around 2009. And I think exhibits was kind of the heart and soul of it at first.
Mm-hmm.
They gradually have added readings and panels. And so I worked out, they sort of had a lot of the featured readers already lined up, but they didn't have poets. So I kind of helped line up Mark Doty and Saeed Jones to be poets among the featured readers. And it's very multi-genre, the book fair, of course. I do poetry. You do fiction, and you edited the short story anthology. Your fiction is detective or mystery oriented. Sort of every genre you can think of, whether it's poetry or any kind of prose, fiction, essays, memoir, biography, is represented at the book fair. So they kind of try to do readings that are in those different genres and have featured readers that are in those different genres and have panels that are kind of related to things. So like, this year, I'm also, in addition to being on the steering committee, I'm on a Jewish writers panel, which I don't really know what we're going to talk about. But as is my husband, Jason Schneiderman, who's also a poet, to some extent a more well-established and prominent one than I am at this point. And Donna Minkowitz is on that panel. Some people might be familiar with her, longtime writer for the Village Voice back in the day, I guess the 90s or 2000s. and has a recent memoir called Growing Up Golem, Golem. For the non-Jews in the audience, it's
I know what it is.
The mythological sort of Frankenstein monster of Jewish lore. But anyway, so there's panels, there's readings, and Reggie Kabiko and Nathaniel Siegel, I think his name is, two poets, organize a poetry marathon every year called Come Here, Come HEAR. And I think they've got something like 65 poets, including, again, Jason and me, each doing like a 4-minute reading, just read like 3 poems, and it kind of goes all day long. The fair overall is from noon to 6 at that in another
Holiday Inn.
Yeah, that Holiday Inn. I actually have the website up on another on my computer, so I can check these things out. So it's the Holiday Inn Midtown, which is 440 West 57th Street, which is sort of down the street from where Jason and I used to live once upon a time. We lived on 57th Street between 8th and 9th, and would pass that Holiday Inn now and then when we were like walking all the way down to 10th Avenue for something or other.
I wonder if they have ever had a LGBT or gay mystery panel.
That is something that I will keep in mind. You should email me about that, because I kind of have made it clear that, I'm really not that interested in, not that good at, I'm not bad at, but I mean, the logistics and sort of dealing with the hotel and so forth. I think my forte really is programming more. So I'm already thinking about a trans panel for next year and what was the other thing I wanted to do? I forget what my other idea was, but a mystery panel would be a great thing to do.
I will email you because I agree with you. It's a very specific genre.
Yeah.
And somehow it's, you just meet people here and there and everything we do. You just meet people. And I got invited to this Facebook page that is it's closed, not exclusive. It's just not a public Facebook page. But it's gay mystery writers,
That's awesome.
Male and female. So I've gotten to know them and interview several of them, and I know 2 of them that are nominated that are finalists this year. I've gotten to know them.
That's awesome.
So that panel would be great. One other thing I was going to throw out there was when you were talking about feeling like a loner. It touched a little chord in me because no matter how many people I meet doing the website or doing the podcast, doing the books, I've met all these people, but I always still have this part of me that feels like I don't belong. And it's, it's weird. It's weird. And it's like a therapy thing. It's something that's just part of how I was formed growing up as feeling isolated, and probably why I'm a writer. I really believe that's why I'm a writer, because writing gave me the ability to create my own world. But I can't sometimes get past this feeling that I don't belong anywhere, and it's bizarre. It's just bizarre, and it's not germane to the conversation, but...
No, but it's interesting. Well, I don't know if it is or isn't, because I feel like I was thinking, does that become exacerbated when you're over 50? Like, if you tended to be a loner as a youth, is it worse when you're older? But I actually think that in a way, I'm finally starting to overcome that, and maybe it's because I'm going through one of those, I'm over 50, who gives a damn what I do at this point, or I don't give a damn what I do at this point. And I think it's making me a little more ballsy in some ways about jumping into things like the Rainbow Book Fair, and being a little less afraid that I'm not wanted or not liked or whatever. So I don't know.
I also have I don't like self-esteem. There's got to be another word. I have confidence issues. Like even thinking, a mystery panel would be so great, and then I thought, but you're not good enough to be on it, Mark. You can recommend some folks.
That's not what I hear.
No, it's crazy.
It's doing pretty well on Amazon.
Well, and it's bullshit, of course. I will acknowledge that I'm certainly as good as most. Now, I was going to say, you referred to yourself as the oldest new voice in contemporary poetry.
Yeah.
You still think that's true? And is there going to be another chapbook, another collection?
I don't know if I ever was really the oldest new voice, but I like the way it sounded, and I certainly feel that at the time and among gay poets, they were all a bunch of kids. Well, that's not the case necessarily. I mean, Mark Doty is no kid, but he's extremely established. I was 40. When did that book come out? In 2014, last year, when I was 53. So, I mean, publishing my first book at 53, I felt like I was fair for me to say that. And so there isn't anything sort of with a publisher at this point. But there is a chapbook manuscript that I think has probably existed for a good year now, and I have a publisher in mind, and my I don't know what do you call it, like when you're sort of going after like a boyfriend or girlfriend and like they don't really know it, or they're just sort of you're working at them over a long time or something. My would-be publisher is wooing, and my would-be publisher is a little overtaxed right now, but I'm not looking anywhere else. I'm waiting until they're ready for me. So we'll see how that goes. They'll be at this. I'm going to the AWP, the Associated Writing. It's weird. They actually really call it now the Association of Writers and Writing Programs, but everyone still just calls it AWP. A big writers conference that's taking place in Minneapolis over the next few days, and I will see my would-be wooed potential publisher there and try to slip into conversation about, so when are you guys going to start contracting with new chapbook authors? But anyway, yeah, there's that, and there's new writing that I'm doing, and so I do think the future looks good for the oldest new voice and contemporary poetry. And the fact that the book did end up being a Lammy finalist is certainly giving it a new lease on life. As I know, I was kind of wickedly depressed a lot most of last year, and I didn't do as much for the book as I could have. And losing that first year is kind of really, that first year that a book is out in the world is kind of crucial in terms of promotion and so forth. Mm-hmm. So I didn't do as much with it as I could have, but I feel like with this nomination, and people sort of care about it all of a sudden, I get another chance to kind of almost make believe. It's like getting your virginity back. I get another chance to make believe that it's new, and just sort of ignore the fact that is that your kitty cat?
Yeah, she's making noises.
I had to get rid of all the kitty cats because I had, in addition to depression, anxiety, and insomnia, I had huge sinus issues caused by my cats that I was clearly allergic to, and ended up getting sinus surgery last winter. Yeah, so there's all sorts of things going on writing-wise. And I wanted to mention, going back for a second to Rainbow, one of the things I'd like to do with it is allow it to have, oh my goodness, all the Lammy stickers.
Did you order them?
I didn't yet, but I will. I don't know what I'm waiting for.
Well, I got them for the book fair, and then I'm going to be doing a reading with two of the authors at two of the other contributors for the anthology at Sage, and then also at my church as a charity event. But anyways, no, I thought
right. I didn't think of the book fair. I thought like, well, what do I really need these stickers for? I sell like a book every 2 months at a reading or something. But you're right. There's the Rainbow Book Fair on April 18th, and as I said, I'm going to this AWP thing where my publisher will have a table. And it's not an LGBT thing, it's an everyone thing, and there are thousands of people at it, and we should have had stickers for the book. He sent them, there's also like a digital version of the sticker, and he sent whoever he needed to send the digital version of the sticker. Okay. But he said, well, if you want to order stickers, you can, and I didn't think of it. But, so one of the things I want to do with Rainbow, the Rainbow Book Fair, is give it a more year-round presence. Mm-hmm. So we're going to start in June. We're inaugurating it in June. We're going to start a monthly reading series that will be any and all genres. It's not, because in the past I've curated poetry series. Well, actually, mostly poetry. The year in that I did for 8 years was poetry, or almost 10 years actually, was poetry and fiction as well. But so we're going to be doing a monthly series at the Bureau, the independent bookstore that is now housed at the LGBT Community Center. We're going to be starting on June 24th, if I'm not mistaken, the Wednesday, I believe it is, of Gay Pride Week, kind of like the week actually leading up to the parade and everything, with kind of a multi-genre reading. I haven't lined up the quote-unquote talent yet. I haven't lined up the readers yet, but I'm going to try to have 4 people, so like one poet, a fiction writer, maybe a memoirist, maybe an essayist, something, 4 different kinds of writer to sort of signal that the Rainbow Book Fair is is every kind of genre you can imagine. And then as the months go by, we might have readings based on genre or readings based on theme or community, a trans reading, a South Asian reading, this reading, that reading, a mystery reading, and just do it every month. So I'm really looking forward to that. Basically, it's like I created a position for myself doing something that I enjoy, which is running series like that. That's nominally connected with the Rainbow Book Fair, but I think it'll help because I think one of the issues with the book fair is it comes around every spring and then it kind of goes away. And so I think making it like Lambda Literary, making it kind of more of an organization that has a year-round life with things like readings and other kinds of special events would be good for it, which ultimately is this annual fair. But I think you need to have other kind of limbs or whatever that support that main thing.
Well, I'm not gonna keep you on much longer, but okay. I want to know about those things. So I know that I get. Obviously, they have a mailing list because I get their emails, but that makes sure that those of us who are on that, or that they initiate some other mailing list, with MailChimp or something, because I would like to know about those events and not have to necessarily remember to look on Facebook.
That's great. That's great input because we do use, I think it's Constant Comment, like MailChimp. It's another one of those kinds of programs. And I don't think we do it, I think we do it to audiences like the exhibitors, for example, or there's various audiences. I'm kind of just starting to learn how to use it, but I don't think we do that kind of newsletter that you're talking about, like Lambda does, or like other organizations do. Even Best American Poetry, right? You can sign up for their email, and you get it whether it's weekly or monthly. And again, that becomes actually what you're saying is interesting on a lot of levels, because not only is it an e-blast system where you can alert people about events, but you could just have a monthly newsletter that sort of again, that's part of your year-round presence. So those are the kinds of things, for some reason, I think are my forte, more than dealing with the caterers at the hotel or whatever, which I've been in medical communications for 20 years in sort of the medical meetings world, and I've always been on the editorial side of it rather than the logistical side of it. So I always kind of I'm more interested in the content and the programming than I am sort of the logistics of anything that I'm involved with.
Well, if you folks need extra, need more bodies and minds, let me know. Keep me in mind. Because I wouldn't, I would be certainly interested in participating, helping in something.
And I think we do need that. I think we need to grow it to the point where more people can be involved, because I was sort of thinking, going in my head through a whole list of sort of standing committees that we kind of need a promotion committee. We kind of need a program committee. We kind of need a fundraising committee. And the whole group that organizes it is only 5 people at this point, including me. So it's you can't really have, you kind of need 2 people for a committee. So you very quickly run out of people. Yeah. So I think we really do need to expand the organizing body over the next year or so also.
Well, it's been really great talking to you. It's always good talking to you. I mean, enjoy the mini apple.
Yes, exactly. It's a nice town. I've been there before, and there's some fun stuff to do. And I'm reading actually a local LGBT organization put together a reading. So people are arriving Wednesday. The conference starts Thursday, and this reading is at a library at 9:00 Thursday morning. And I'm just thinking, gay people don't get up that early.
No. Minneapolis, I used to go there quite a bit. It's a great city. The Walker Arts Center, they got the Guthrie, I think, is there. Yeah. So have a good time there. I'll bring you a bunch of stickers because for some reason
they sent you a lot.
They sent me 200. I didn't order 200. I'm glad they sent them to me, but I'm not going to have 200 of these anthologies sitting around my apartment because they don't move a lot. There's not short stories aren't necessarily the hottest mover. But
I wonder if the Lambda table will have stickers, and I can run and get some, and then bring them over to my publisher's table for my book. I mean, not on the 18th, but this weekend. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, good luck with that, and I'll have a bunch. You can just have them. Again, it's been really good to talk to you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the book fair. And staying, keeping an eye out for all of the events and things that you've been putting on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And drop me an email.
I will.
Okay.
And have a good night.
You too. You can get back to
Mad Men.
Mad Men. All right. Bye.
Right. Bye.